Hello, good morning, Life Point Church, and welcome back to our last day of our lesson, To Do Justly. And we talked about some hard things this week, and we talked about, I think, some things that people don't want to talk about. And I'm going to leave you today with just a true story about our country in a time probably where maybe you not have been familiar with, or where you were not even born yet. But in 1967, the government paved way for desegregation, and children were now going to be allowed to go to schools where they weren't normally allowed to go to schools. So in 1967 they said, well, we're not going to do that anymore, and if you could go to any school that you want. And for me, I think, man, that's wild to even think about, that people wouldn't be able to go to school where they would want to go because of the color of their skin. But it's the truth about our country. It's the truth about the society in that time. And in 1967, even though that was passed, that you were able to go to school where you weren't normally allowed to go, nobody did it. And you'd say, well, I can't blame them for a time like that. But in 1968, there were two families that were brave enough, two black families that were brave enough to say that I'm going to send my children to school where they're not normally allowed to go. And two black children went to a formerly all-white school. And there was a boy that was going to school there, a white boy, and his name was Charles. And Charles was told by his parents about these new kids coming to school. And they told him, listen, these are just normal kids. You're not allowed to make fun of them. You're not allowed to do what other people might do. You're not allowed to be rough with them on the basketball court or tackle them hardly on the football field. You're not allowed to treat them unjustly. And Charles took that lesson, and he took it to school, and he listened to his parents. And he didn't treat them unjustly. But he saw these two boys sitting alone at the lunchroom. He saw other kids calling them names and treating them poorly. And Charles sat by, and he didn't take any part in that. And that was in 1968. In 1969, those two boys didn't return to the white school. They went back to the school where they felt more comfortable. And we would say, well, Charles was a just boy. He didn't treat them any indifferently. But was he a biblical example of being a just person? Because I think if he was, at that time, he was only 11. But if he was a biblical example of a just person, he might have stood up for those boys. He might have sat next to them in the lunchroom. He might have had something to say when other people were treating him poorly. Now, it's uncomfortable for us today to talk about this. And I want to tell you, it's uncomfortable for me to even teach this lesson. But there is injustices that are taking place in our society. And there's certain people that want to hijack that injustice and bring in political motives. There's people that want to hijack the wrongs that are taking place and then just do violence. And that's not what I'm talking about. But I'm talking about people that are willing to stand up and to say that we're all God's children and that we all need to be treated the right way. And you know what? I think the establishment that is looking to cause this injustice, that's probably what they fear the most. They fear the people that are united. They fear the people that can unite. Let's think about that this week as we stand united as one Christian nation. Thank you so much for joining me.